Tafawa Balewa Square, TBS. Tafawa Balewa Square was initially used as a horsing ground called Lagos Race Course. The edifice was constructed by General Yakubu Gowon in 1972 and named after Nigeria's first Prime Minister, Sir Tafawa Balewa. Tafawa Balewa Square is located at 45/57 Mase Bangboshe Street on Lagos Island, Lagos, and referred to as TBS. TBS is a 50,000-seater capacity venue and houses the Remembrance Arcade, the 26-story Independence House, which at a time was the country's tallest building. When Lagos served as the country's seat of government, the National Assembly Complex was within the TBS. Also in the square are the National Broadcasting Commission Office, the Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency Office, shopping centers, travel agencies, restaurants, car parking lots, and a bus terminal. Tafawa Balewa Square is adorned with beautiful statues of white horses and red eagles, symbols of strength and dignity. Our historic neighbors include the King's College and the Holy Cross Cathedral. Tafawa Balewa Square hosted some of the country's memorable events, such as the Independence Day in 1960, when Nigeria gained independence from Britain, the Armed Forces Remembrance Day, which is celebrated annually on January 15. The edifice is a national cultural asset. Tafawa Balewa Square, SOUQ Enlightenment. In the heart of sub-Saharan Africa, where commerce meets progress, welcome to SOUQ News, your source for business, economy, and development insight that drive nations forward. From the vibrant streets of Lagos, Africa's fastest economic hub, SOUQ News takes you on a journey of discovery, analyzing and reporting the facts that lay the foundation for growth and development. We don't just report the news, we create it. SOUQ News is more than a channel. It is a catalyst for change, spotlighting the stories that shape economies, inspire entrepreneurs, and fuel progress. Covering business, finance, technology, energy, and many more, SOUQ News provides a daily deep dive into the stories that matter, interviews with industry titans, and analysis that empowers your understanding of economic landscape. Join us daily as we dissect, discuss, and deliver the most relevant and factual news on business and the economy. SOUQ News is your trusted guide, empowering you with the knowledge to make informed decisions. Lateef Jakande. Born Lateef Kayode Jakande in the Ekpetedo area of Lagos Island, Lagos State on July 1929. He studied at the Lagos Public School at Enuowa, Lagos Island, then at Bonham Memorial Methodist School, Port Harcourt, King's College, enrolled at Ilesha Grammar School, where he edited a literary paper called The Quarterly Mirror. Jakande began a career in journalism in 1949 with the Daily Service and joined the Nigerian Tribune in 1953. The owner, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, appointed Jakande editor-in-chief of the Tribune in 1956. Jakande established John West Publications in 1975 after leaving Tribune and began to publish the Lagos News. He served as the first president of the Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria, NPAN. Jakande ran for election as executive governor of Lagos State in 1979 on the Unity Party of Nigeria platform. His administration was effective and open and implemented the cardinal policies of
Hello and welcome to SOUQ Pulse. Thank you for always being part of this program. And for everyone that has been sending messages, I want to say, hey, you are the best. To everyone that had a beautiful Easter, to those that looked forward to something, to those that showed love and you were shown in return, we say congratulations. Remember, it's a continuum. We don't stop. And since we don't stop, we tell you same thing on SOUQ Pulse. We don't stop talking. We never keep quiet. When we see good things, we say it. When we see bad things, we also bring it to the fore and discuss it. And that brings us to this. Wherever you're from, whatever border is dividing your country, whatever alphabet starts the name of your country, remember this, that we might be different people bearing different kind of surnames, but we are one Africa. We are human beings. That should be the first thing that should sink in. It doesn't matter the color of your skin. And if your economy is not doing well, directly or indirectly, it will affect people across your borders. So we talk. It's SOUQ Pulse. My name is SOUQ, John Rogers SOUQ. Today we will hit not a home run, but something that will put us to shame a little bit and also tell us the truth, as in specifically look ourselves in the eye and ask those straightforward questions. Why do we do this? What is really making us do this? And that brings us to the topic of today. But before we do that, we still have our guest. He's not left us yet, and we are grateful that he's still here. We'll go on a very, very short break. And once we return, I will introduce our topic, what we're going to talk about today, and introduce our guest, and we'll get to it. Remember, call up your neighbors, your friends. Let's sit and have a beautiful time. Don't go anywhere.
We've got just what you need right here at Femi Wash Media. Call it the Midas Touch, and you wouldn't be wrong. Let us record, produce, mix, and master your audio like nobody does. Reach us on our contact today for the best quality job.
Yet, if you're just joining in, it's SOUQ Pulse and we are live on SOUQ News. SOUQ News is all about positive programming. So when every form of negativity gets in your face or they hit on you from every other form of, from all forms of media, be it the ones in social, be it the screens you turn on, be it on the radio, just tell yourself, hey, let me take a break. Come to SOUQ News. You will live happier than you came. Now we are bringing this to the fore. If we say Africa needs to move forward, African countries need to get productive. If we say that, hey, our people need to stand up and do right, then let's start addressing certain issues. That's what we are talking about today. Why? In capital letters, why do Africans talk down Africa? So when we say, what are the borders of Africa? Okay, no, you from Malawi, you from Congo, you from Niger Republic, you from DRC, you from Botswana, you from South Africa, you from Ghana, Nigeria, Cameroon. Why is it that when you open your mouth describing your place or talking about your place, be it as a joke, be it as a banter, we don't get to see a lot of positivities coming out from we Africans on our own motherland, about our own place, about our people, about our culture, about the real essence that make us who we are. Forget the education. Forget that particular foreign thing you're wearing right now. Why do Africans talk down on Africa? That's what we'll be talking about today. And as we're talking, if you're watching, I also want you to start this conversation, be it an argument in whatever form, with all those around you. And if you've got children, hey, this is child-friendly. There is no parental guidance on this particular production or this program. Everybody needs to be brought up right. I am privileged to have Dr. Idahosa still here with me. So, hey, I always have this beautiful smile. Sir, you're welcome to SOUQ Pulse.
Chucks, my pleasure to be here.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you very much. Now, before he decides to take a flight and call us from somewhere that might be in Africa or not. We still have him here. And we will try our best to get the best out of him in all good light. So, sir.
Did I just baptize you?
I am waiting. I'm on the queue. I'm very, very much on the queue. So, sir, just like our topic says, that's where we always start. Why do Africans talk down Africa?
Well, I think, again, this is rooted in the way the elite structure of Africa was altered by our encounter with the colonial masters. That's why you see in all the conversation that we have to talk about, there's always this side, this negative side of our contact with the white that really had damaged our personality, taking away our self-respect. Now, you see, what the white did was to raise up new elite who substituted the existing African elites. Most African society were governed by kings and queens and princes and chiefs who were traditionally the elite of the African society. And when this interface came, the elite, the original African elite, had some ego and didn't want to surrender to the new culture that was being imposed on them. And what are these colonialists had to do was to recruit the downtrodden, let me not use the word slaves, and gave them a form of orientation that tend to now have elevated them over and above the original elites. So these new sets of people who had what we call the so-called Western education were given the instrument of governance. In some places, they were made tax collectors. In some places, they were made district heads. In some places, they were made teachers and the rest of it. And then, of course, they had to take their own pound of flesh on the original and traditional elite. So that's why you find the greatest victim of colonialism is the traditional African institutions. So once you succeeded in pulling down that structure, there was nothing left. Because the people, of course, who became the new elite really had nothing to gain or lose with the African traditional system because they were not in the lineage of rulers. So this is...
And they had no knowledge to pass across.
Of course, at all. And therefore, they took what was given to them, hook, line, and sinker, and became the enemy of the traditional institutions, who were supposed to be the repository of both our culture, the finest part of us. We lost it.
Okay. Now, you've taken us all the way back, like way back. You can't sell a product except you yourself know what that product is. You can't convince somebody on a product if you are not using that product. So if we are saying on SOUQ Pulse every single day, Monday to Friday of the week, and we are saying, let us get Africa productive, let us sell Africa, we must be able to stand up and say, this is Africa, I can verge for Africa, and not talk down. And that is me, you. Now, how is it possible that most times when you see Africans, they don't see themselves, they see themselves in light of what the West says about them?
Yeah, but this is the point I'm talking to you. So you see, with this cultural distortion that came with this interface, that we took those who were supposed to be the so-called enemies of the institution and weaponized them against the system. And so all the campaign was to say, this institution does not represent anything good. What is good is you. And that's why really you find up to now, you still see that struggle. That our inability to empower our traditional institution are really the foundational stone for the crisis which we enjoy. So there are no regards for traditional institutions. There are no regards for traditional leadership, and that's why governor can wake up any moment, and the first thing he can take down a traditional ruler and put the title and give it to somebody else. So that destroys a whole lot about us and all that we represent. Because the first set of people, truth be told, who took education were not the true worthy sons of Africa.
Okay. Now, this will be a big argument, but not for today. So
and
for
I'm ready to take it on with anybody.
Every one of us, every one of you, whose parents, great-grandparents, great-great-great-great-grandparents are in the annals of history, these histories were not created by us. And you know those names are there. Get ready, because this argument
you see, because you just need to go and do a little search on your family and see where you were standing, or your father, maybe the first professor, it could be the first lawyer, it could be the first doctor. Go and find out where they were before this encounter.
Okay,
whether they were among the elite or they were on the other side of the divide. So because if you don't tell this story right, you will find that we will be having this understanding that, look, they were very noble people. No, it wasn't as that. We must tell ourselves very honest truth. That's why we are SOUQ Pulse.
Okay, so going by the book, Chinua Achebe's book, so for Okonkwo to refuse his children to go to the white man's school, he had reasons for doing that.
Because they were the real noble. So the children of the noble were not going to be allowed to get into that kind of laziness because it was not productive. They needed their children to be very productive. So the real elite of Africa were very productive, and they wanted their children to take after them, and therefore it was those who were felt to be very lazy that gave to this system. And now when this was handed over to them, you find this real struggle between this new elite and the emergent elite and the other elite, which of course were already in the lineage of rulership, and this contention, this tension is ongoing, and it's a war without end. And that is why you see that it is the elites really who talk down on Africa. We talk down on our systems, we talk down on our structures, we talk down on our remedies, because we are fighting a war. That friction is so strong, and that was a weapon that the white used against the black.
Okay, now let's go to this particular weapon, the education, which is still tenable till date. Are we going to say to a large extent that education has not played a very good, vital role in educating or in informing African children who have turned parents and grandparents gone? Can we say that the education has not been proper in getting Africans to be real Africans?
Oh, to a very large extent, education has been real wonderful and fundamental, even to our outlook. We cannot take that away at all. I'm looking like this because I had the opportunity to get into the education. You see, but what the point I'm making is that if we had allowed those structures to remain and socialize them to embrace this education, we would have had a more developed system. But the problem was the antagonism that was created between the emerging elites and the traditional elite.
Okay, now, why refer to them as traditional elite?
Yeah.
Because they were more of a rallying point.
Yeah.
They were the keepers of the culture of the people, the knowledge of the people. So why refer to them as the elite? Because they were accessible. They were not like what we have now.
No. You see, the elite is the governing class in a society.
Yes, it could also be the age group. It could also be the leaders of the power and tappers. It could also be...
Oh, yes, that's why they are called elite, because they're the governing group in society. Now, you have the kings, you have the chiefs,
Yes.
you have the 8 grades, depending on which parts of Africa you are from. Now, all these people, they were very, very enlightened to a very large extent. Now, take for example, let's use the genocide in Rwanda as a case. The ruling class in Rwanda were the Tutsis, who were in the minority, but they were economically very savvy. So they owned so much cows. And therefore they were called the Tutsis. Those who had lesser cow were called the Hutus. But like in every stratification in society, at the apex, you have very few people. Now, at the bottom range, you have an army of people. And then those who are just one cow or no cow, we are called the Toas. You see it? Now, when the crisis that eventually resulted into the genocide started in Rwanda, the Hutus were weaponized to destroy the Tutsi in the name of democracy.
Whose democracy exactly?
Of course, the Western democracy.
Okay.
That
Now,
since the Tutsi, who were ruling, the ruling class were the minority. Therefore, if democracy is majoritarian ethic, the Tutsis are oppressing the Hutus. And therefore, the revenge came for the Hutus who took over power and chased out the Tutsi and started this process of annihilation of the Tutsi as if they were traditional enemies. That was what led to the genocide. Now you need to go to the memoriam and see the 10 commandments of the Hutus, what they were all about to even to the point to say that if you as a Hutu take a Tutsi as a wife, you are the enemy of the Hutu.
Okay, that definitely is not part of their culture.
That was not their culture. So it was brought. So that is the antagonism that I'm talking about. The friction between the original elite and the emergent elite.
Okay.
And now this tension was created deliberately so that
By an actor somewhere.
after somewhere to suppress what was original to us and where honestly our strength lied. And if you see any civilization that has been conquered, the first thing that is taken from that civilization is their religion. And once you are able to harness the religion of a people, then you can crumble that civilization. That was what happened to us. Now, once the traditional religion was demystified, we lost everything. You want to talk about the ancient Jews in scriptures? You want to talk about the Babylonians? You want to talk about the Greek culture, the Mede Persia? You read all this empire, the Roman Empire. You see, once you are able to substitute a people's religion, you have conquered them.
Okay. Now, their religion is their belief system.
Yes.
Good. Now, can we look at this? At what point can we say that Africa have lost its history, the rich cultures that kept people together, the rich cultures that taught us that there was no better place than home? At what point in time can we say it's irrespective of what you were going through? Yeah. Africa have Tuaregs who live in the desert, and no matter how hot or no water, they still love where they live. They will go travel for as far as they want, go do trade, and still come back to their desert. That is who we were. We travel as far as, go through boundaries, and still come back to where we are from, and put our stories down. But right now, it is not the same thing. We live in droves.
That's what it is.
So what is causing us to lose that touch with our history?
Yeah, but you see, this is the system that has been put in place. And this is the system that is running. Where you have been made and you have been told that you are an inferior race. I don't know.
Inferior to who?
To
your neighbors or the person that came?
The person that came somewhere.
Okay, now see the issue. The person that came from somewhere. Yeah. So he is some seas or some oceans away.
Far away.
So he's telling me I'm an inferior race. I don't have a problem with that. Stay where you are, I stay where I am.
Okay. Now I don't know if you have watched this BBC documentary on slavery, where they talk about the science of eugenics.
You want to go that far?
That some certain people sat down somewhere in America and came up with a study that Africans are less human, which is called the science of eugenics, trying to study our skulls and to say that the way our nose is positioned does not look like human nose.
Okay. Before we decide to discuss the interest of people that on the right side are not human beings, because every single person that took part in that study, yes, you might carry a human face, but sorry.
You see,
no respect,
yeah.
but
so this is a real issue. See, because when you see...
Can we leave that part and dwell on some
we
issues?
cannot leave it.
People came out on their own to play God on certain other people.
Yes.
That's where you are going to now. But let's look at ourselves.
Yeah, but the instrument which we are talking about, which of course, in Nigeria, Lord Lugard christened as indirect rule, was using one people against another. For example, in British West Africa. That's all it was. So the indirect rule system was to create tension and crisis within the system. Now that tension, those crises are still rocking us.
Because we obliged to
it. Now you see, where traditional institutions were thriving, when politics came in, even up to the 1960s, 1953, 1951, you see kingdom divided by this so-called new elite, and new kings were installed who had no blue blood flowing in their vein, no semblance of royalty. All this was just to demean the original institution and create those tensions which still exist with us today that we have not been able to overcome. Okay. So I feel that this understanding of history is critical for most African states.
Is it most African states or all African states?
I think so right now.
But now, we say we need African states to know their history. Okay, African, as long as you're an African, you need to know your history. Now, in certain African states, Nigeria, for example, at a particular point in time, the subject itself was banned from being taught in schools. So these are things we now start asking ourselves. At what point in time should we start thinking for ourselves and not depend or wait for somebody that gives you a policy because he wants to give you some money or because he has some ulterior motive to push or an agenda to push? When should Africa start thinking for herself on issues like this?
Yeah. You see, that's why I said to you, you set up a system. If you are not disruptive in destroying that system that is put in place, this understanding will be just terrible. I went to school. I read in school. You know, when I was doing a course in theology, one of my professors said something to me on the argument and debates about appearance and reality. And I asked him, do you believe that trash? He said, oh yes. That as I'm here now, we don't know whether it's appearance or reality. And I said, what do you mean? I left my house, my wife and children.
There are easy solutions to
Paid hard money to come to a seminary to learn. And you are telling me whether it's appearance or reality?
You should have look for a lady that has a pin and poke him somewhere.
You see, so but what I'm saying is that he was teaching.
The Three Wise Men. Iconic sculptures and statues adorn major metropolitan cities of the world. In Lagos, Nigeria, the statue of three men designed to depict the state's cultural heritage and to usher in visitors and tourists into the ever-accommodating center of excellence is no doubt an astounding work of art. Originally built under the administration of Colonel Raji Rasaki, designed by Bodu Shodende in 1991 and standing over 12 feet high, referred to as Agba Meta or Aro Meta, the three sculptured chiefs were placed along the Lagos-Ibadan toll gate to welcome people coming into Lagos State. The statue called the Three Wise Men by many has become a major signature for the state. Three white-capped chiefs clad in white wrappers, knotted across their shoulders and with clenched right fists are shown in the artwork. The images fascinate and create impressions in the minds of visitors coming into the state, captivating the attention of visitors who look with keen interest, pondering on the messages which the posture of the engraved images signifies. The Three Wise Men has been relocated thrice from its original position at Ojodu Berger end of Lagos-Ibadan Expressway to Magodo area before its final relocation to its present site at Olowopopo Drive. The sculpture has suffered severe damages over the years and renovated.
Is either direct see people outside this continent and they can't tell you the number of countries, or if there are countries in Africa, they see Africa as one country. That's sad. To your own shame though. But now, let's also ask ourselves, our own media houses on the other side, a lot of them are still copying this same narrative from Western media, and on daily basis, they knowingly or unknowingly talk down on Africa through their narrative or through their partnerships. A typical example, we had a show this morning on SOUQ Pulse, and I could really tell that you were angry because somebody somewhere was narrating a Western country coming here and trying to talk about giving Africa water or providing water in Nigeria, like there were no drinking waters here before Lugard came. So these are things we need to ask ourselves. Why are this narrative still on our own media houses?
You see, we cannot but continue to look at where we're coming from because these things are historical facts. Let me give you one very simple example. I'm coming to tell you something about yourself. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to say, Anybody who can put his head down on the ground with the leg up and walk for 2 minutes, I give you 20,000. What do you think everybody will be doing?
But they can't put their head down.
They will be trying and struggling to see how to put the head down
and
walk so that they can get the 20,000. This is what the problem is with the African media. We are struggling to win award outside.
Get recognition.
And get their recognition. And so if you must get their recognition, and this is why really for me really, and that place where we have to be careful, is this of our boys who are going to go look for award in terms of music. We don't need them to validate us. We are good with our rhyme. They should not train us how to sing. We know how to sing. So this is a problem. So we are singing their tune as media because we want recognition. We want to get an award from them. And therefore they tutor you what to say and what not to say. This is a problem. Same in the academic circle. And they tell you there is no amount of intelligent writing. For example, you will put that is original to you that any Western journal will publish. They will not. And tell you, you did not meet specification.
Whose specification?
That's a question. So is that specification? So they want their own narrative about you. And because they want their own narrative about you, it is what they say is correct that become the answer to the exam. You see now, because
exam set by who?
The teacher said the exam. And if the teacher said the answer is A, even when you were dead right, A will become the answer. Because he who paid the piper dictated the truth. This is a problem. And this is fundamental. And this is why I'm calling for disruptive thinking in Africa.
Okay. Now, before we go further with this particular topic, I need to remind you that this program is still 1 hour.
Yes, it's 1 hour.
Okay,
I'm fully aware.
So now let's move ahead. I'm yet to see a country or a nation or a community. A community is even that big. A family that has no issues. Let me not use the word problem. If there is a family that have no issues, let them raise their hand, even as you're watching us right now. Then I'm yet to see a country that have no issue. But in Africa, we over-publicize our issues. Should it be the issues we are looking at, the problems we are looking at, or the solution? What narrative should we be pushing? Okay, this is the problem, how can I find a solution? Or we just dwell on, this is the problem. Africa is no good. Nigeria is no good. Ghana is dying of poverty. There is war in Somalia. Everybody is dead. Everybody is packing away. The Mediterranean is full with everybody with their bag trying to cross and go to Spain.
Except, not everybody. Except the NGOs.
Well, they are everywhere.
And that's what I'm saying. The indigenes are packing away, but the NGOs are not living. So we must find out what the NGOs are doing in those places.
So what narrative should Africa be pushing?
Africa should push its own narrative. And I think that's what is the primary objective of what SOUQ News Television should be known for. Driving the African story, the African way by African people. We don't need validation from anybody.
Okay. This cuts across a whole lot. Now, there's this, it's been there for ages. You asked me a certain question sometime before this particular program, and I openly answered you directly the way I answered, and you started laughing. Now, we have two major religions across Africa. We have the Muslims, we have the Christians. What part should religious leaders play in getting their followers or their would-be followers to think Africa and speak good of the same land where all the big mega mosques and churches?
Choose. How come there are so many branches of one religion in Africa? Have you asked yourself that question? Whether it's Islam, whether it is Christianity, whether it's even whatever you call it. They all have various strands. That's tension in itself. Who do you listen to in Nigeria today? Is it the head of the Pentecostal or the head of the Orthodox or whatever? Even in CAN, Christian Organization of Nigeria, as we speak, there are 5 wings in CAN. And those 5 wings are 5 parallel lines that don't meet. If a Roman Catholic becomes the president of CAN, you see Roman Catholic active. If it moves from Roman Catholic and come to PFN, you see Roman Catholic back out. If it moves from Roman Catholic and come to the other Orthodox, that they are called Protestants, so you see Roman Catholic don't participate, the Pentecostal don't participate. If it comes to the African indigenous traditional religion, everybody will go on its own way. The same CAN, Christian Association of Nigeria. And so, the center don't hold. Because we don't even know what we are practicing in the first place. And the people who gave the religion to you told you so several lies that are very difficult to verify, because the original texts are written in language that you don't know, but translated into English, which is the tool and the weapon of your colonizer. And most of the things that you have accepted as faith become fake. Now, if you see in theology, there's an aspect of trying to remove, for example, Judaism from Christian literature. That we read the Bible, for example, as if it was written to Americans and England people. But the same foundation is what we have. You even get to some places in our current reality and people talk about, the Old Testament is no longer in use, it's the New Testament we now face. As if the characters in the New Testament were not Jews. And we accept those reality. Even when Jesus himself, that all of us claim that is our master, said that he did not come to abolish the law, but to validate it. We still tell ourselves that, that one don't work, it doesn't apply to us. It was cultural to Jew. I said, which culture do Jew belong to? If God was dealing with culture, he didn't need to take Abraham away from Aramean and make him into a new entity. So this error in religion is what we are dealing with. So the tension between the African elite and the emerging Western elite, who are supposedly to be the sons of Africa, is also inherent in either Islam in Nigeria and Christianity. And so in my rating, both Islam and Christianity in Nigeria, they are not real and they are as fake as possible. Because if we have a religion that preaches peace, we will see it in the life of the adherents. But that life is not obvious. And this is where we find ourselves. So, you see, it cuts across almost every facet of human life. And this is a reality we face. Any man wake up any day and preach a message, and I was sharing with you just now, the issue of how to interpret the word grace. And they tell you, grace is a favor you don't merit. So all you do, fold your hand, and you are waiting for God to come and do something for you because you don't need to work. When God himself is a worker.
God is a worker.
God is a worker. He doesn't sleep.
Okay, how can we now emulate God and speak good of Africa and work good?
Yeah,
not
but this is
waiting
where
for
it is, because
miracles.
if you study the work of Max Weber, the Protestant ethic, you discover that the value that actually grew the European economy was this value of work, dignity of labor. These were the real issue. Now, these are the things we are undermining, and we are putting our children on the risk. We don't want them to work because we say grace is available for them. People who have grace, they don't work. Who said it?
People who have grace don't work.
See, this is a problem.
Okay, now that's like another division of poverty. It might not be you, but in the next four generations of your family, don't even think about that. And whoever is preaching or telling a generation or a congregation that, we'll get to the police later. Let's now look at this. At what point should we start telling people to own their culture, to own their community, to own their nation? Because if I believe in Nigeria, I won't wake up, even when I see things going bad, I'll ask for, what are the solutions? I'll be able to hold myself or the next person responsible instead of looking for an escape. At what point should we start asking for ownership of Africa?
You see, that was why I was so angry earlier in the morning when we were talking about the issue of Hungary coming to tell us how to manage our body of water. It was so annoying. And these things are very annoying to me as a person. When we are thinking that somebody is promising you, oh, don't worry, I'm going to take care of you. And so we are waiting perpetually for that man who is coming to take care of you. And the man never shows up. This is what is the encounter between us and the West, so that we are tied to their apron string. And they are coming to say they want to help you. The problem of Nigeria, I've said it here, time without number. Infrastructure deficit in Nigeria alone, as calculated by Augusto, will require us to spend between $80 billion to $150 billion every year for 30 years.
We don't have that money.
That's what I'm saying.
Good.
To be able to bridge that gap.
Can we look for how to agree that we are Nigerians in the first place?
Now, this is the point I'm making. There is somebody bring you 9 million euro. You want to solve all your problem. And this is what we are celebrating. This is what we are eulogizing. This is what is finding its way to press. And this is the conversation. How? This is, for me, the beggarly mindset. The slave mentality. That you have to depend on one man to come solve your problem. When actually God had given you a head, a brain, to solve problem. I remember some years ago, during the 2008 economic crisis that rocked America, and a lot of people were dying because of the turbulence in the financial market. Somebody did an interview, I think it was with Warren Buffett, and they said, oh, everybody's dying, and you didn't die. And say, why? And the man said, well, this whole wealth was created by this brain. If everything disappears, this brain will create another one. So, God gave us ability to think so that we can offer solution to our problem. But somebody is promising us freedom, and the person himself is not free. If the number of people that are dying in New York every day, if they were to put it together, they go short. I'm not sure that they are up to the number the Boko Haram had killed in Nigeria.
Okay. Now, let's concentrate on we Africans.
No. But it's narrative.
Yes.
It's narrative to say, narrative. You are in a state of war because you are killing yourself. But even them are killing themselves. They don't report it as war. They say, go run. And then your own, they call it Boko Haram. They call it insurrection. And give it all manners of names to make it look as if it is the crudest thing that can happen to any human race.
Their narrative.
Their narrative. Good. And that is what we have in our press.
It's our responsibility to shape our own narrative.
This is the issue.
Good. So
I have had occasion
since they've shaped theirs, it is let's shape
I have
ours.
had occasion to talk with journalists about the tagging, for example. When there's a crisis, any part of Nigeria, now you hear from your TV station, you hear from your radio station, is herdsmen. As if all the crisis that we have in our nation is driven by herdsmen.
Okay.
The last time I got to my village, they asked me a question. They said, oh, herdsmen does not allow them to go to farm again. I asked them, if the herdsmen come, where do they keep the cow? They said they don't have cow. Then what made them herdsmen? If criminals enter into your community and they do damage to your community, you call them criminals. Now, if criminal thief come to steal, people come to kidnap, and you say they are Fulani herdsmen. Now, what are you doing? You are tying one ethnic group against another. That's a narrative. Because if somebody is a herdsman, he must have a cow or a lamb or animal that is carrying along. So this is the issue. And this is where we need to be able to call spade a spade. And then Africa can begin to own its narrative. And we tell things the way they are.
Okay, since you say we should call a spade and not stop calling it a farming tool or a farming implement. Now, before we start telling things and say the way they are, that's on the broader level, we need to now speak with ourselves, me, you. On that particular conversation you are having or that particular proposal you're having, how do you represent your state? How do you represent your next brother? Now, we have this particular narrative across board. When it comes to Nigeria, when it comes to tech and co, you see this tag, wrong tag. The first thing that comes to your mind, a young person, tech, scammer, Yahoo person. They talk about East Africans and they say they are lazy. They talk about those from the South and they say they are violent. Says who? And we, on our own side, we assist in pushing this kind of stereotypes. Yeah. This needs to stop.
Yeah, but because if you tell a lie over and over and over and over, it will become like a truth.
Another question, whose truth? Who exactly are these truths favoring? This is one thing we need to observe and understand. This is a marketplace. Everybody is running a race in this marketplace. And whatever tool can be used to push you down and pull the next person up, it's been there. It's been in play for hundreds of years before this particular generation. We want to say thank you very much. Thank you very much. You've taken us to school. There's a whole lot of things we needed to talk about. We kind of breezed past. We didn't even mention national orientation for most African states, which is a necessity. Because I remember growing up, when it was time for vaccination, you will hear it. You will hear it. Those we don't get to hear anymore. But that's citizenship. That's being part of a community. The national orientation agencies across different nations, across Africa, we need them to do what they are meant for. Show and tell Africans who they are. If it has to be crime and punishment, good and fine. Let it sink into everybody's head, whether you're living, coming, or staying. I am an African.
But if you make your son, who went to Harvard, Oxford, MIT, to become the Director General of your National Orientation Agency, what will you orient your children?
Okay. On that particular, this is more like a riddle. We'll go find solutions to this. Thank you very much for coming in, sir. Really
My pleasure to be here this evening.
Okay. Remember this. Never stop talking. When we keep silent, things get bad and they spoil. Thank you for being part of SOUQ Pulse this beautiful midweek. We will do this again tomorrow. Remember, this is where we are. Africa must grow. And it will be beautiful with you. But even without me, Africa will still grow. We'll do this again tomorrow. My name is SOUQ, John Rogers SOUQ. Bye.